Hello, this is Yvonne Menear, and this is video number 6 in the EQStitch lessons. We're going to double click on the EQStitch icon to launch our program from our desktop. The program will open in the default of showing us the tip of the day. We're just going to close that. I have already named a project, so I'm going to click on Open an Existing Project. I named this video 6 Stitch Layers, and I'm going to say OK. I don't have anything in my sketchbook yet, so I'm just going to close this. Now I am on the stitching work table, and I want to create a design that I can reorder later so it will be easier to sew on my machine. Now I want to remind you that EQ does include wonderful videos in their program. When you click on the Watch Video icon and you go down to number 16, there's a video called Sort Thread Colors. And this is one way to change how your design will stitch out at the machine by sorting the colors. So let's take a quick look here at a design. I'm going to click on the oval tool and select the heart shape. And I'm going to quickly draw by dragging across the screen 4 heart-shaped elements. When I go to the Stitch tab, you can see that the program automatically fills these designs with stitches in the center, and it puts an edge stitch on it. And the edge stitch, some of you might call this a steel stitch, some might call it a zigzag stitch, some might call it a satin stitch. It's a dense row of stitches around the edge of each of the patches. Let's color these for a moment. We're going to click on the Set Thread Color tool, and I'm going to take 2 of the hearts and make them red, and 2 of the hearts and make them pink. And then I'm going to select a dark color, and I'm going to use the same color on each of my hearts. Let's go to the Sew Simulating icon on our toolbar on the right. Up at the top of the screen, I'm going to click on Play Sewing Forward. Now I drew this heart first, so it stitches it first. I drew this one second, and then third, and then it will finally go over and do the 4th. That is one way that we can tell our machine how we want it to sew, is we draw it in the order that we want it sewn. Now there's a lot of thread color changes in here. An easier way to do this at the machine is to take the stitches and sort them so that it will sew them all in one color at a time. So we'll go to the Sort Thread and click on it. And now when we click on Play Forward, it will start with this one because this is what we drew first. But notice now it skips down to the 3rd one, back to the 2nd one, down to the 4th one, and then it does them all with the edge stitch in the same color. This makes sewing at the machine much faster. It's a different way of getting the design to stitch out that is easier to deal with at the machine. We're not changing threads as often. So even though we drew it in an order of 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, it now stitches the fill 1st and 3rd, the fill 2nd and 4th, and then all of the edge stitches last. So we've changed the way the layers are built, even though we drew it differently. Now let's go back to the Artwork tab, and let's see what happens when we have designs that overlap each other. So I'm going to click on the Pick tool, and I'm going to pick each one of these hearts, and I'm going to slightly overlap them, creating a different dynamic here. And this quite often happens when we're drawing, is that patches will overlap each other. I'm going to click and drag a box around the entire design and center it on my page. And now I'm going to the Stitch tab. Now, even though we just color sorted, let's see what happens now that we've moved the elements on the page. So we're going to click Play Sewing Forward. And you will see that each one of the patches has reverted to putting on the edge stitch as it's stitching. And the program has to do this because these overlay each other, and you can't just do the edge stitches separately or color sort from here because one completely overlays the other. If you did all the blue in a final step, you would see this line here, a line across here, and a line across here. So now you can't color sort this. The drawing is actually stitched in the manner in which it was drawn. Now there is one more thing we can do with this. When we click back on the artwork tab, we do have a different function that's called send to back or send to front, and that will change the way it stitches too. If we click on the pick tool, let's pick this last one here. This one is on top. Everything else is below. So this is the bottom one, this is the second, the third, and the fourth. So the fourth one is on the top. When this is selected, I have two icons up here that are available to me. I can send to front, which it already is. It's on the front or the top. Or I can click on send to back. So I'm going to send it to the back. And then I'm going to click on the stitch tab again. And now you can see it is behind this third heart that we drew. So we drew first, second, third, and fourth. But let's watch how it stitches. So we're going to click on play forward, and it actually is doing this one first. It was the fourth one we drew, but it's the first one that stitches. And the reason it does that is because when we said send to back, it did not just send it to the back of this heart, it sent it to the back of everything on the page. So that's why this now stitches first, then second, third, and fourth, which is a different order of stitching. Let's say we wanted to take this one and stitch it before this one. Okay, understanding that there's stitch first and stitch second, third, whatever. This one we want to be behind this one. If I selected this one, if I just did send to back, not only would it send it behind this one, but it would send it behind all of them. So we can't really change this to now be just behind this element, but have this still in front. So let's watch that. So we're going to take this element and say send to back, and then stitch, and then play forward. So you can see it's behind, but now it is the first element now. So that's changed the stitch order again. This one is on top of this one. Now it jumps over here and stitches this one, and now it jumps over here and stitches this one. Because we only have the function of send to front or send to back, it affects everything else on the page. We cannot look at 2 out of the 4 elements and have it reorder itself. Sometimes you can do sew first or sew front. So let's click this one and we say we want this one in the back. So we can say send to back, and then we can send every other element to that in front of it. So that's at the back. Let's take this one and send it to the front. Let's take this one and send it to the front, and take this one and send it to the front. So now this one here draws first because it's in the back, then second, third, and fourth. So let's look at the stitch tab. Again, you can see that's furthest back, so that's going to stitch first. This is going to stitch second, third, and fourth. And again, we did that by send to back, send to front, send to front, send to front. And we can double check that with the sew simulator. But again, it's doing all of these elements completed with their outline stitches on them. The only way that you could change this so that it did all of the reds, all of the pinks, and all of the blues is by editing the stitches that are underneath. So by that I mean this stitch in here that's actually underneath this one, we would have to remove that and bring it down. And that takes a lot of editing. It can be done. I'll do it with just this one patch to show you what I'm referring to. So I'm going to zoom in to start with. So I've clicked on the little magnifying glass that has the plus sign on it. I'm going to click and drag a box on that area so I can see it very clearly. I'm going to click on my shape tool. I'm going to click on the heart. I'm going to add a couple more edit points. I'm going to add one out here by double clicking, and another one out here by double clicking. So these are outside of the region of this one here. Now I'm going to click on this center line in here, and I'm going to take this and I am going to select it and delete it. And so now you can see how it's coming down. On this edit one here, I'm going to select it, click on it, and now that I've selected this one, I'm going to change it to this edit node, and we're going to make it different so that each handle coming out from the node moves separately. So I'm going to take this one and I'm going to bring it down to here. I'm going to click on this one. Again, I want to have this icon set, and I'm going to bring it down to here. Now these are separate elements. It appears when you glance at it that this one is underneath this one, but we've actually cut that out. I'm going to go back to refresh my screen, center it back on the page, so you can see there is a little bit of a gap there. When I go to the stitch page, now you can see that this is still showing as it's behind, but let's take away these edges for a minute. So I'm going to click on the set edge tool. I'm going to turn off the edge tool, and you can see there's ever so slight of a break. Let's take this one that we edited and again turn it to pink. And now let's see if we can color sort from here. So let's click on the simulate stitching. I'll just watch it for a second to see what it's doing. So it's starting with this pink one because this one was behind, but this one's on top. So let's see if we can sort this or not. And so we're going to do color sort and stitch forward. And it won't do that. And the reason it won't do that is because this one is still laying over the top of this one. So this one has to be edited out also. So I could stitch this and then this and this, but I have to remove that overlap. It's the overlap that's the problem. So if I go back to my artwork tab and I see that there's that overlap there, again I want to zoom in, so I'm going to click on the zoom button, click and drag a box around there so I can see really clearly. I'm going to click on the shape tool. I'm going to add an edit node on this one out here, so I'm going to double click to add a node out here. Sorry, it's not selecting the one I want. There, out there, and out there. I'm going to click on this one, and I'm going to say delete it. I'm going to grab this node. Again, I want to set it to this type of a corner, and I'm going to bring this edge, I'm going to bring this edge, I'm going to click and drag to bring this edge down a bit. Click on this one, I want it to be this corner, and I'm going to click and drag to bring this one down a bit. We're just going to edit this just a little bit more. I just want to make sure that while I'm editing this that there is a little bit of a space. And I'm going to click refresh and center it on my screen again. And you can see there's just a slight bit of a gap there now. So let's go back to the stitch tab. Let's recolor these one more time. It loses its color every time you play with it. It also changes its edge stitches too because it thinks you've created all new patches. I'm going to click on the set edge tool again and turn off these edges. And now you can see there's the slightest gap there and there. This one was in the back, this was on top, this was on top, this one was on top of that, but we've changed that. So now let's look at our Sew Simulator, and we're going to play forward. And it's still doing the pink and then the reds, but this pink was drawn first. So let's click on the sort thread, and let's play the Sew Simulator again. And now we've got the two pinks stitching and then the two reds. And that's another way you can sort your colors. So there's several different ways to do this. It's also called by several different names. You might call it changing your layers. You might call it changing your stitch order. You might call it sorting your thread colors. All of them refer to the same type of thing, is that you're trying to get the machine to stitch in a way that is the fastest, most economical way of stitching by grouping your colors or by how you draw them, which comes first, second, and third, what's in the front and what's in the back. I know this can be a little bit confusing. It's not as simple as some of the different full-bodied programs that are out there where you can simply click and drag something to a different position. But we do have options to change things. So regardless of what terminology you use on how you're making this work for you, I want you to know that there are several different ways that you can approach it. So play with your program a little bit, see what options you come up with, what works well for you, and then go from there. Thanks for listening.